Good evening. Welcome to Channel 17's Town Meeting Day coverage. Tonight we have the Winooski school budget presentation. With me I have Sean McMannon, who is Superintendent of the Winooski School District, and Mike Decarreau, who is School Board President. Gentlemen, what can you tell us about the school budget this year?
Well, at the outset, we really wanted to highlight some of the outstanding programming that's going on in the school district. And specifically this year, we've made tremendous strides in our middle school and working within a learning model which is called expeditionary learning. And so we have our middle school students working in teams, working on relevant projects, expressing their learning in a variety of ways. And this is the second year that we've been doing that, and we're just seeing the levels of engagement in our students is just going up dramatically. Another area that we're really excited about is our partnerships with local businesses and organizations like Waterworks and the Vermont Folklife Center and PCC, Misery Loves Company in the city of Winooski, and it gives our students an opportunity to get out into businesses and organizations and learn about what it looks like to do work in their places of business and build their skills so that they're career ready in the future.
Fantastic. I just wanted to mention, you can call in anytime with questions, 862-3966. That number should also be on the bottom of your screen, 862-3966. Well, do you have a presentation to talk about what the budget's going to be like this year?
Yes, after Sean and the administrative team and the staff go through what they need based on all the opportunities that they have going on, they present to the board the needs for the year. A couple of things stood out kind of dramatically this year. One is the need for another ELL teacher. It was in the elementary school. We had a staffing ratio of 1 to 50 in that area. So needless to say, 1 to 50 it can't be all that effective, if you will, at those kinds of staffing rates. So the need for another ELL teacher. And then a communications and development director in the school. We have some work we're going to be doing with our capital project that we have. We're in the midst of presenting. So this particular position will help us do some fundraising and communications work. So in total, what we have is about 98% of this particular budget is salaries and benefits. Our benefits from year to year have gone up nearly 12%, 11.8%, just the benefit piece of it. And salaries, we're still in the midst of negotiation, but we plan on about a $1.15 million investment in both salaries and benefits, which ends up being about 98% of the total. So as we look through that, the expense change is just under 7%. Which from looking at over the past 5 or 6 years is right around where we have been. And over the past, was it about 10 years now, average change about 4.5% increase in spending. So the tax rate change we're looking at here is about 9.5% increase, but that's very differentiated in town with income sensitivity from the way the state funding is done. Mm-hmm. If based on household incomes are under 99,000 level. Mm-hmm. It's based purely on income, and that'll be about a 2.3% increase. And just for a reference point for anybody that, and we have a lot more information, we'll have it on the website. But for anybody underneath the 99,000 household income, right at the 90,000, that's about a $100 increase in taxes for the year for that piece. On the other end, from an income sensitivity standpoint, is over 147.5 ends up putting you into based on purely property value. And at that point, somebody, I think, what did we figure was standard, about $250,000 house is kind of the point that we use. That'd be about $350 increase for
So
the
if your
year.
household income is over 147,500, then it's based on property value. And the average house in Winooski is assessed value,
Right.
not the market value. The assessed value is about $250,000. So the increase is about $350.
Right. For those that don't meet the income sensitivity under the 99,000,
Right.
then you're looking at the 2.3. And in between those two is a mixture of the two, depending on where you are. And it's graduated in the middle between income and property value.
And this will be on the Winooski School District website at some point, so
Right.
voters will have a chance to see what it is they're being asked to approve before they go to the polls on town meeting day.
Yeah, and on February 11th from 11:30 a.m. until 1 o'clock, there'll be a budget presentation at the Senior Center. And then on February 20th, a community breakfast down at the O'Brien Community Center where the budget will be presented, and that starts at 6 p.m.
Great.
That's the city and the school doing the budget presentation, so definitely ask folks to come out and join us.
All right.
And the annual meeting, which is always the night before town meeting day, on Monday night at the Performing Arts Center, starting at 6 o'clock with the city budget presentation, and then at 7:30 the school budget presentation on Monday, March 4th.
Terrific. Mike, you mentioned a communications and development director. So what is that? In the nonprofit world, a development director would be somebody who's in charge of fundraising. Is that what this kind of position is?
That is definitely a portion of it. Do you want to take on the thought?
Yeah, I think we have been looking for in the past few years a communications position so that we could really shout to the local community, but also regionally and statewide, all the amazing things that are happening in the Winooski School District. And during that time, we also have begun to embark on a capital project. And so the board and the administration decided that this position would be really beneficial and have a great return in many ways. So not just in communicating the great learning that's happening across the district, but now we would really be dedicating this position in the first couple of years primarily to the development side of the role, so that they could go out locally, statewide, and nationally to try and raise monies to offset the cost of the capital bond to the taxpayers of Winooski.
Do you want to talk about what that bond issue is going to be for? Or?
We're still in the middle of developing that piece. We didn't come prepared to talk too deeply about that, but one of the pieces that we've been showing the community so far is just the infrastructure in the school itself. We've been wrestling with for the last 3 weeks. We had a water main break about 3 weeks ago. Had it repaired, but the repair was to a pipe that wasn't willing to be repaired. It was rotted so badly. But they filled it back in, hoped it would last till spring. We had another main break just down the road, which caused some water pressure fluctuations and broke it again. So they went back in and just stopped it at that point. We decided to repair the whole thing. We had to go from the city valve back to the school and replace the whole thing. In the 350 feet or whatever they've done, they haven't found any good pipe in there at all. So we've had to take that hit. But in the school, the boiler system, you walk into the boiler system, the electrical panel in that room, I'm told the only way to get parts for it is on eBay, and the only people that have the parts are people that have ripped it out, put it aside, and put in new electrical panel work. So there's a lot of the infrastructure, not to mention the roof, a total overhaul, insulations, and so we're definitely working through all of that right now.
So you have some
To get the
aging
bond out.
infrastructure and facilities that need repair.
And accommodations for the system as a whole as well. A growing student population, different needs. We're in a very different place from an education standpoint. When the school was built, it was built for a class of 25 looking at a teacher in the front, one subject matter, one test for all. Now it's very, very different. Sean mentioned the expeditionary learning, the project-based learning. I go back to a discussion we had, I think it was 4 years ago now. We invited in at our board meeting UVM, Champlain, CCV, Albany College of Pharmaceuticals, and we asked them, what does it look like to you when students come out of schools? What are you looking for? Interestingly, the straight academic piece, how are you in math and physics, was third or fourth on the list. It was, can you work in teams? Can you problem solve? Can you, if you get knocked down, can you get up? The grit piece of it. And then it was the subject matter. And in order to do all of those things in a project-based learning in a team, you need the space to be able to work in the smaller groups. And so in order to do that and accommodate that in the school, there was a restructuring that we did and a couple of smaller additions in each building to accommodate the space needs. One, do you work in an office?
I do.
Okay. We have one office space for some special ed folks, and special ed with the confidentiality of the reports and whatnot. I walked into this room. I have an office too. I always complain that it's small. I walked into this space, and you literally have to back out to change your mind. It is that small. There's 3 small desks that they made to fit, and 3 chairs.
Wow. But
To accommodate the growing need of the smaller, a lot of individual work in the special ed. In order to accommodate that space, we need to grow it. We've put people in closets, we've put them in spaces that are not meant to be offices, and we need to get the staff the space that they need to do the job. Audiologists working in hallways, that's not a place to do that. So we definitely need the space, and that's pretty much the net of the capital project, I think. Did I miss anything on the basic needs?
No, and there's plenty of information on our website about the capital project, and we just sent out a new promotional video that's out and about on social media and on our website, so people can check it all out there.
what about there's a question for the school board candidates, but I'm going to ask you, is the district using its funding effectively to address the opportunity gap, which is the disparity in access to quality ed education and the resources needed for all children to be academically successful?
Yeah, that was an interesting question. I certainly wouldn't want to be a new school board member trying to answer that question.
They're going to have to.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I think mine is more along the lines of having to be immersed in it in order to understand both A, the opportunity gap itself,
Yeah.
and then B, what the school is actually doing to fix that, or at least to meld in with it. I think the answer is that Sean and his administrative team have done, leadership team, not administrative team. I'm trying to remember. But I think they've done an incredible job understanding what it is. I mean, this year, one ELL teacher out of the multitude of things we could have had and the need based on a 1-to-50 ratio was brought forward. But it's not, we need 8 positions of this, we need 6 of that. They bring back the very basic needs of what we need. And each year over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's exactly what we've hit. You know, special ed need, because this piece is growing. ELL has come up a couple of times over the past 4 or 5 years. And I think that is all aimed at, with the poverty as well. I think you need the extra one-on-one time. And I think that they've done a tremendous job. What is it that we need to close that gap? As well as, you know, what is it going to take? What can the community handle as far as, you know, the costs to do that?
I imagine everybody knows what ELL stands for, but for the record, would you spell it out?
Yeah, I think I would love to answer that question because a lot of places still use ESL, English as a second language. But I think knowing what I've seen over the past 4 or 5 years, the ELL acronym is English Language Learners. A lot of the folks that come to us, English is not their second language. It may be their third, it may be their fourth. the home language, the camp, if they had come through a camp. But a lot of these folks speak more than one language. So English as a second language is a little, in some cases, I think, a slap. So English language learners is the term that we use.
So I have to imagine that one teacher for 50 students is woefully inadequate.
It doesn't get it done at all in any environment. That is way too many students to try to keep track of and keep moving in a positive direction. So, yeah, that's, and so I think they address the opportunity gap extremely well.
So what else, I mean, just thinking about, the capital needs of the district. I mean, have we covered that subject, or, what else are they going forward?
Well, I think we're in a really interesting time in Winooski, right? With the it started years ago with the redevelopment of the Rotary, and we know what a popular destination that has become. And Main Street is starting to be revitalized. And 6 or 7 years ago, beginning with the Nellie Mae grant that was shared by Burlington High School and Winooski High School, a lot of work around student-centered learning, and just an absolute excitement, I think, in the city of Winooski around the city and the school district. And we're at a time now where this capital project and continued resourcing of the school are really important. Winooski School District has traditionally been in the bottom quarter to a third of spending per student across the state, and this board has worked really hard to provide the resources to us and to the school so that we can serve kids well. And as you heard, a lot of that investment is in licensed folks to do highly skilled work with our students and to meet their needs. And so I'm really excited about continuing the work in the school district and in the city so that we continue to create a place that people come and they want to stay for the long term. And our families being able to stay in a pre-K-12 learning continuum in a single campus is fairly unusual in Vermont, and particularly in Chittenden County. And so I think we have something really unique to offer in that respect. And we want to make sure that we not only kind of take care of what we have, but that we continue to grow it for the future so that we're offering our families the best that we can.
Do you think you have an opportunity in Winooski because more people are moving there, because Burlington is so expensive to live in, and more housing is being built in Winooski, so that you continue to make the school district an attractive place for young families to move to and send their children to?
I do, and I think the housing is one piece of it, but I think that we at the school district we have something unique to offer. Having an absolutely multicultural environment for students. We are the only majority-minority school district in the state of Vermont, and so the multilinguistic experience, multicultural experience that all students get really prepares them for the broader world in a way that most Vermont schools cannot offer that. And so I think that part of the communications position that we were talking about earlier is how do we get that word out so people know that we have something really interesting to offer. And we're already seeing parents who have said that they've moved to Winooski because they want their children to have that experience, and they know that it's going to prepare them for the broader world in a much better way.
Fantastic. What else do you have in your armamentarium tonight?
We've covered a bunch. Let's see. Sean mentioned the community dinner on February 20th, 6 p.m. at the O'Brien Center, the Senior Center. Covered most of it, I think.
Again, if anybody wants to call in, the number 862-3966. Questions for Sean McMannon or Mike Decarreau? Another question for the candidates who couldn't be here tonight. The evidence of the most successful interventions in the drug and alcohol crisis are coming from community-based solutions. So I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, do you think the city of Winooski has a larger role to play in the engagement of its young people? What's working? What more can be done? You talked about those programs that involve school children in businesses, in experiential learning. That certainly seems like one example.
Yeah.
Yeah, take it at the top, and if you can maybe take it down a little bit deeper. But one of the things that we've done in Winooski over the last 5 or 6, 7 years is to ensure that the city and the school are on the same page. We meet very regularly to make sure that programming that the city offers is aligned to what the school is laying out. And so, we've moved a lot of the programming for the kids from the O'Brien Center, which is on the Mallett's Bay end of the southwest end of town. We moved it into the school so that the kids don't have to after-school travel. So that continuity of the kids, no matter where they are in the care of adults around the city, either in the school or with the city, is the same, to the point of even training the staff in the city as to what the school is doing so that they treat it exactly the same way. The kids hear the same words. So I think that helps a lot for the kids, knowing that there's that support group. Taking it back to the drugs, a lot of that helps to have some of that support embedded in the system. So.
Yeah, I think the school's role, the greatest leverage that we have in that question is prevention. As the hub of the city, and having 850 to 900 students in our building every day, and so at the heart of the prevention is making sure that we know students and their families really well, so that when something comes up, we know about it and we can support them. So we do things like in the elementary, we have what's called a responsive classroom. So there's classroom meetings every day. There's tremendous communication with parents on a weekly basis, from classroom teachers, from the principal, so that they're aware of everything that's going on. In the middle and the high school, we have what's called an advisory, where every teacher has 12 to 15 students that they stay with for a couple of years. They meet every day, so they get to know each other really, really well. So when something comes up, they're there to support. In addition to all of the more traditional instruction around prevention for drugs and alcohol that starts happening at the elementary level. And that's all very important. And then working with the city to provide activities. So not just the school-based activities, but community activities, so that we can foster developmental assets. Because the research tells us the more activities that we have for students, positive activities we have for students to be involved in, and we can kind of enrich those set of developmental assets, the less probability they have of either initial onset of use of drugs and alcohol or addiction at later in life.
Thank you.
So the other piece, just to continue with that, though, is for the English-speaking crowd, you call the parents. You have conferences with the parents, and you bring them in, to have some discussions if you have problems. With the ELL population and the new Americans that we actually have, I think it's 4 interpreters on staff to help us with that engagement of the new American population as well. So that when needed for anything, so that helps.
How many languages are spoken in the Winooski schools?
There's over 20 languages spoken across the district. We have 6 what we call cultural liaisons who speak at least 10 different languages. And then there's lots of dialects within those languages that are spoken in homes and in the specific communities. And like Mike mentioned, our cultural liaisons are amazing, and we couldn't do it without them, because they are able to, translate messages so that we can send them out over voice. They can do written translations, transcriptions for us, and they also just do a lot of word of mouth in the community when they're outside of school. And build trust with the school through those communications, and also introducing a lot of our new Americans to the U.S. educational system, which is oftentimes very different than what they're used to.
Absolutely. Can you just talk a little bit about what the projections are for student enrollment in Winooski, and how the district should address those population trends? You mentioned there were a little more than 860 students K through 12 in the district?
Yeah, and so we've worked with the New England
School Development Council.
School Development Council, and they do a lot of work with the state on projections for increases. Ours look to be increasing about 10 students a year for the next 8 or 10 years, which is contrary to a lot of what you hear around the state for losing students or declining populations. Ours is actually increasing, and it has been for the past few years. It's
A little bit of growth is a good thing.
Yes, radical growth can catch you, but small growth, and that's part of what we're trying to plan for over the next 10 or 15 or 20 years with the capital project as well, is to accommodate the space, not only the space and the needs, not only now, but as we move forward. That's asking the staff. One of the things that we challenge the staff with is, what does a school look like in 20 years? Why do the work this year to what you know you needed last year if you're going to have it there for 25, 30 years? So it became a discussion of, some interesting, for me, I always think about, what does a library look like 20 years from now? What does that look like when all the books that you could possibly have are probably electronic? And so the thought that went into this capital project, and what do we have for a population? What is the growth that we're going to do? And just from a pedagogy, what does that look like as you get out a bunch of years, so that it's still useful as we get out, even toward its end of life? So.
Do you mind repeating what are those other opportunities to interact, to talk about the budget? You mentioned there's
Yep. So
February 11th at 11:30 a.m. until 1 over lunch at the Senior Center is an opportunity. And then February 20th, a community dinner sponsored by the Winooski Partnership for Prevention at the O'Brien Community Center, and that's starting at 6 and includes dinner. And then on Monday, March 4th, I believe it is, annual meeting.
Remember that one.
And that starts at 6 p.m. and is in the Performing Arts Center right at the school.
terrific.
So plenty of opportunities, and if those can't be reached, by all means reach out. All our information is contact information. You can contact me if you need to. So welcome the calls.
All right. So how many candidates do we have? How many people are on the school board? And how many people are running this year?
Yep. So we have a 5-person board, and each year we have 2 people do a 3 and a 2-year seat. We have Matt McNeil running again this year for a 2-year seat, and Margaret Bass is running for the 3-year seat. She is a newcomer to town, relatively. Has some past in education, comes highly recommended, and we look forward to her presence on the board. We have an interesting board. We have a great variety of opinions, which I think help our discussions greatly when we work through issues, policy, whatever else. We've got a very broad group for our discussions. It's worked out really well.
Well, thanks for coming and talking about the Winooski school budget tonight. We have Sean McMannon, school superintendent, and Mike Decarreau, who is school board president. My name is Alex Friend. Please stay tuned to Channel 17's continuing coverage of Town Meeting Day 2019, and thank you for watching.